a recap of the Twins and Lynx tough night last night. Also, major news out of the Bison football coaching staff to pass along, and Bison baseball is back in the SEC. We'll hear from Danny Lachenmayer and his decision to commit to LSU. A lot to get to on this Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to this, you're almost to the weekend edition of Hot Mic. Almost there. Thanks for joining us however you are on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, also streaming on Inform.com and the WDAY Plus app. It's the second day of July 2025. We're getting there, almost to the holiday weekend. Just power through. Just keep on pushing. Hump day today. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for spending your morning with us. Once again, Sam Getzinger back in, filling for Dom Izzo while he's out on vacation. Was just chatting with him earlier this morning. He prefaced last week before he left that every time he travels, it usually doesn't go well, and it sounds like the travel nightmares have continued. Luckily, he's in New York. He's finally there, and he's enjoying some time with his family back in his homeland. So he'll be back in here next week after taking some much-deserved time off. So until then, you got me for today, tomorrow, and then a very fun 4th of July edition of the show coming up on Friday. Fun stuff planned for today. A lot to unpack. A lot to unpack on this Wednesday. Of course, we're in the middle of the week, and that means Drew Trafton will join us. He's already waiting in the wings here early this morning. Big day for U.S. soccer, and you know me, I'm a baby. I'm a baby deer when it comes to the world of soccer, especially at the national level. So he'll give us a breakdown of everything that's happening in the Gold Cup with the men's national team. The women's national team is also in action today in a very exciting matchup. So we'll get the full breakdown from Drew when he comes in at the bottom of the hour here to start the show this morning. Also, we are going to chat with now former Bison baseball stud closer Danny Lachenmayer. Of course, we've been following the transfers from Bison baseball after the conclusion of last season, and to see the places that they're going to coming out of the portal is just jaw-dropping. Power 5, Power 4, SEC, you name it. Danny Lachenmayer recently announced that he's going to take his talents over to LSU, a team that won the national championship this year, by the way. So we're going to get the lowdown from him to start hour number 2 on what went into that decision and what he's looking forward to moving forward. So looking forward to that conversation coming up to start the second hour of the show. And, of course, today we're also going to continue to catch up with Bison football commits for the class of 2026. We spoke with Q Barnslater yesterday, a defensive back out of Apple Valley, who will actually play quarterback in his senior season for Apple Valley coming up. And today we're going to hear from a stud out of Wisconsin, Kobe Russell, who announced a couple of months back. Long overdue for that conversation. We'll get to know Kobe and what went into his decision to come to NDSU. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, major news out of Bison football that dropped last night. Longtime assistant coach, defensive tackles coach, big part of the defensive unit for NDSU. Nick Gazer announced that he is stepping away from North Dakota State football to explore other opportunities. So we'll chat more about that coming up later on this morning as well. Big news there out of North Dakota State. So a lot to get to today, no doubt about that. Of course, the beauty of a busy Sports Tuesday, we finally had games that were on TV that we care about. It's Wednesday morning, and we finally can show some highlights of something. So that's pretty awesome. We've had the MLB on, but who cares about that if it's not the Twins? But we finally had some games on. Twins were in action against Miami, and of course, last night, a big game for the Minnesota Lynx. It was the WNBA Commissioner's Cup, and we'll start with that here this morning. Unfortunately, we didn't get the dream matchup that we were hoping for with Nafisa Collier for Minnesota and Caitlin Clark for the Indiana Fever. It was announced a couple of hours before the game that Caitlin was going to miss the Commissioner's Cup final with a groin injury. But you know what? It's unfortunate, but the show must go on. So here's how things shook out for Minnesota in the Commissioner's Cup final. Great first quarter. Dominant in the first quarter. They outscored the Indiana Fever 20-12. Looked like things were moving pretty solidly. But then we go to the second, and the wheels started to come off. Indiana started to get their momentum. Kick out here, corner three. This would give the Fever the lead with 2 minutes left in the second quarter. That was Sophie Cunningham with the corner three. And again, Caitlin Clark not playing, but Indiana made it look like that didn't matter. Going over into the second half now. 43-34, steal and the lay on the other end. Minnesota Lynx just cannot believe what's going on. Started off this game so well, and then the train wreck just totally derailed. Moving over to the fourth quarter, 60-51. Cunningham again drills a deep three. Double-digit lead here for the Fever. They're up by 12. Under 3.5 minutes left to play. Fever still up by 12. What a great spinning layup there from Aaliyah Boston. Gets it down low. She's double-teamed, works through the finish, and the Fever would hold on to stun the Minnesota Lynx 74-59. It's their first WNBA Commissioner's Cup. I tuned into the final part of this game last night. Oh, man. Thought maybe there were times Minnesota was just going to find the gear that they were looking for. It just never happened. Indiana, after that first quarter, dominant. They outscored Minnesota 20-7 in the second quarter. Natasha Howard led the way in the entire game, 16 points, 12 rebounds, had a double-double, as did Aaliyah Boston. Elena Smith, 15 points. Collier only held to 12. And if you want to look back into that game, that's probably the difference. Again, we spoke about it yesterday. Collier was going through some injuries a couple of weeks ago, made her way back, put up 23 and 26 in the two games back before the Commissioner's Cup. And then whatever Indiana did to figure out how to stop the best player in the league, it worked. They got it. They found the blueprint. So congratulations to the Indiana Fever. They win not just a trophy for this in-season tournament. They also get the $500,000 smackaroo grand prize at the end of this that they can split across the team. And if you remember our show from yesterday, that was the big topic for the Minnesota Lynx. They didn't care about the trophy. They cared about the money. And can you really blame them? So, unfortunately, they don't get that $500,000. They do get a little bit, but for being in the championship, but it's nowhere near that mark. So, congratulations to Indiana getting the job done without Caitlin Clark. After the game, Minnesota Lynx reacting to the loss. This is what they had to say following that 74-59 defeat.
We have a tendency sometimes to get impatient, and I didn't think that our commitment to moving the basketball and creating advantages, we had a hard time getting that done, which led to, we had some easy shots that didn't fall, as did they, particularly early in the game, and then they kind of got their rhythm going, and we just we sort of lost ours. We had 27 points, and then we had 7 in the second quarter. That's tough. So yeah, give them credit. I didn't watch the video back, but I would imagine that they just sort of beat us to spots. We didn't have our usual sort of fortitude, fight, and response to physicality. They beat us. Give them credit.
I mean, it's good to look at it as like a learning opportunity, and with a growth mindset. We're in a position where it doesn't affect our standings, but we still want to hold it in a place that it means something to us. Like, we always want to play our best basketball, and so we have to take this game to heart, and like I said, learn from the mistakes that we made in this game, the way we showed up, the way that we prepared, and make sure that we don't do it again.
That's just the third loss on the season for the Minnesota Lynx. They've played, 17 games? Technically, they're still 14-2 after the Commissioner's Cup, but it is the third loss, and you heard it there. Luckily that it doesn't affect the standings, but that's a tough one. Imagine that game if Caitlin Clark is there. And Caitlin Clark, for those of you that have been living under a rock, has taken the WNBA by storm. She's making headlines this week. Probably not for the greatest of reasons, which we'll touch on here in just a second. Minnesota, still early in the season. Can't stress enough how dominant of a year this start of the season has been so far for the Minnesota Lynx. They've been untouchable until last night. They got a couple of games coming up here in the month of July, a couple that are on national TV here as well, so they'll get that national spotlight towards the later part of the month. They're back in action on July 3rd, actually tomorrow, They take on Washington. They have that 4th of July off. Then they're back at home again against Golden State on the 5th, which is Saturday. So congratulations to the Indiana Fever for picking up that win. Again, really interesting, or really interested. I'm curious, what would have happened if Caitlin Clark was there? How big would that margin have been? Because defensively, it seemed like Indiana had it figured out. And if you haven't been following along with the WNBA, and I'll admit, I haven't looked at the headlines in the league throughout the week, but it's been pretty crazy to see what's been going on with Caitlin Clark, who's a member of this Indiana Fever team, over the last week here or so. And for those that are not familiar with this situation, the voting numbers for the WNBA All-Star Game came out earlier this week, and that stirred some conversation, no doubt about that. Caitlin Clark had the most fan votes for a guard. The fans voted her the number one guard in the NBA. The media voted her the number 3 guard in the WNBA. But the players in the league itself voted her the 9th best guard in the league. And if you've been following along with Caitlin's career ever since she left Iowa and entered into the WNBA, she has not been the most well-liked player in the league by the players. It's been that case for a little while now. And when you see those numbers pop out, how? There's no way she's the 9th best guard in the league. All it takes is to watch a game of her playing, and you'll realize she's a step ahead. It doesn't take a hardcore WNBA fan to notice that. All you have to do is watch for a little bit, and you can see she's the real deal. She's averaging 18, 5, and 9 this season. She's put up over 20 points in the game that she has played. Now, granted, I will give the players this. She has been injured for a good portion of this season. First with a lower body injury, I believe a leg injury, and then a groin injury most recently. But look at what she's done for the WNBA. And again, this goes back a couple of weeks ago as well, in a game that the Fever had where a fight broke out essentially out of nowhere, and Caitlin Clark hit the deck because she was shoved over. There was headlocks in that game. But look at what Caitlin Clark has done for the WNBA, and a prime example is just look at last night, and you saw it in the highlights at the Target Center. That place was absolutely packed for the Commissioner's Cup final. And yes, I'm sure the Minnesota Lynx having a dominant season, that played a massive role in that. I don't doubt that at all. But you got to imagine Caitlin Clark had a way in that, and to continuously show disdain for her over and over and over again. She's bringing money into the league. She's helped get these teams flights to their games, private flights. It's an interesting deal going on there. Eric, have you been following along with this? Is there something you want to add on the Caitlin Clark conundrum here?
So the All-Star, the fans are going to vote her first. The media is going to do this, but the players are going to go off of this season.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you mentioned she had 18, 5, and 9.
Yes, in the games that she's played.
In the games she's played. Also, add another stat. She's had a league high 6 turnovers.
Fair. That is fair.
She's only also playing in, like you said, half the games. And you can't go off last season. You have to go off this season.
I totally agree with you.
She's shooting 29% from 3, which is bad, and 39% from the floor, which isn't great either.
And for guard, I'd take that 40%.
Yeah,
horrible. But I totally get what you're saying.
They're basing it out on this season. They're not like.
I totally get that.
It's like when Yao Ming was playing. He always beat Shaq out for the popularity vote.
Right.
Because it's Yao Ming.
But okay, so take this voting out of the question as well, and go back to that game a couple of weeks ago that the Fever were playing in, and a brawl started out from Caitlin Clark. I totally agree with you, Eric. You got to look at this season in total and what Caitlin Clark has done, and it hasn't been the most productive thing, just frankly because she hasn't been out on the floor that much. But I don't know. It's weird. You can definitely tell. Other examples outside of this voting, you can definitely tell there's something there. These players don't like Caitlin Clark. I don't think there's any secret to that. But she's a big part of the league. I think you would think there'd be a little bit of a level of respect. That's one side of the argument. The other side of the argument is what Eric mentioned, and I totally agree with it. You got to base it on this year. I'll leave it at that.
Well, hang on, I got one more thing.
Go ahead.
I'll also say this. Sabrina Ionescu walked so Caitlin Clark could run because Ionescu was Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark.
No
she
doubt.
Was a
no doubt.
Triple-double.
No doubt.
And people took notice in college, but now Caitlin Clark came up, and yes, they're two different teams. What Caitlin Clark did at Iowa was amazing.
No doubt.
People laid the groundwork for Clark to get here.
And maybe it's the amount of attention being put on a young star this early in her career who hasn't proved it fully at the professional level that may cause a little bad taste in the mouth. I'm sure that plays a part in it as well. But that's the gist on what's going on. I'll let you develop your own opinions there. The All-Star game in the WNBA is coming up in the middle part of July here on July 19th. Okay, so that's what happened between the Fever and the Lynx. Let's turn our attention over quickly to the Minnesota Twins, who also were in action last night, had the day off on Monday, and then headed on down to Miami to take on the Marlins. And this was another interesting game coming off of that absolute tough game on Sunday Night Baseball against the Detroit Tigers, and Tarek Skubal throwing 13 strikeouts and only giving up one hit. He did as a total. The Tigers only gave up 2 hits. It felt like a perfect game. So that leads us into the month of July, hoping that it's a better month than what June was. Edward Cabrera on the bump for the Miami Marlins. He was fantastic. Didn't take long for Miami to get on the board here. Kyle Stowers with a solo home run, 382 feet to deep right field. That would be his 14th homer of the season, giving Miami a 1-0 lead. It would go pretty quietly offensively for both teams for a good stretch there. And then finally, in the bottom of the 8th, with a runner on, Nick Fortes hits an RBI single to right field. Otto Lopez to third, and Jesus Sanchez would come in to score. 2-0 lead for the Miami Marlins. But here's the deal. The bats wouldn't show up for the Twins. They just weren't there. For the second game in a row, they only had 2 hits. Oh, man, the month of June looks like it's going to carry over in July. I know I'm overreacting because it's just the first game of the month, but that's 2 games in a row. And by my understanding, the Twins have never, in franchise history, never had 2 games in a row where they've been held to 2 or less hits in back-to-back games. That's tough. The pitching performance was fantastic from Joe Ryan, by the way. 7 innings pitched. He gave up 5 hits, only 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts. And by the way, Royce Lewis back in the lineup yesterday. Told you that was a possibility on the show yesterday that was going to happen with Jonah Bride being designated for assignment. He was back in the lineup towards the bottom, and he had a double. He was one of the lone bright spots offensively for the Minnesota Twins. So that's a fantastic sign. There's a tweet out from Aaron Gleeman after the game. Twins get shut out in back-to-back games as the lineup goes 4 for 57. My goodness. 2 walks, 23 strikeouts. They're well below 500. 13-game winning streak ended in mid-May, including an MLB worst 6-17 since their last series win. Oof. That's a tough go at it. Good to see Royce Lewis back at least. That's a positive. Twins will be back in action against Miami tonight. This is a look at the AL Central standings. You can see the Twins are 13 games back now. The red-hot Detroit Tigers, they're a game back of the Cleveland Guardians. So we'll keep our eyes on this as we move forward. Game tonight, Game 2, scheduled for the same time as yesterday, 5:40 first pitch in Miami. Simeon Woods Richardson will get the start today for the Minnesota Twins. It just seems like last month the pitching's not there. If it's not one thing, it's the other. If the pitching's not there one month or the bat's not going to be here this month, but the pitching might be okay, what's going to happen? I don't know. But again, it's only July. Still a lot of time in the season to figure things out. I like to overreact in July, but I do that half-heartedly because there's an entire season left to go. So don't count them out just yet. It would be nice. It would be nice to see a series win in Miami, but they have to figure it out here. You see it up there. David Festa will get the start in Game 3, July 3rd, tomorrow, 11:40, matinee for that game. So keep your eyes out for that. That'll be both games on Twins TV, the Thursday game on the MLB Network as well. Okay. Let's set up the rest of our show here moving forward. I told you we have a great group of guests joining us here on this Wednesday morning. Coming up at the bottom of the hour in a couple of minutes, Drew Trafton will join us. We'll talk some Gold Cup soccer, men's national team, women's national team in action. A lot to get to with Drew today. Also, to start hour number 2, Danny Lachenmayer will join us. Former Bison closer announced his commitment to LSU coming out of the transfer portal. We'll get the rundown from him coming at 10 o'clock. And at 10:30, Kobe Russell, one of the newest Bison commits, committed a couple of months ago. One of the 15 guys in the class of 2026. This is Kobe out of Wisconsin. We'll get the rundown on his decision coming up in hour number 2 of the show. A lot to get to. Of course, we got major news out of North Dakota State football that we're going to get to here in just a couple of minutes. We'll pass that along when we come back on this Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic. Just getting started. We'll be right back on WDAY Extra. Welcome back on this Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, also streaming on Inform.com. In just a couple of minutes, Drew Trafton will join us, talk about what's going on in the world of soccer. So looking forward to that conversation. Before we get to that, I want to spend a couple of minutes on this and give this topic the due diligence that it deserves here. Of course, this week we've been talking a lot about North Dakota State, NDSU football with House settlement news, catching up with commits for the class of 2026, what have you. Some more news to pass along this morning that was announced last night. Co-defensive coordinator and defensive tackles coach, longtime assistant for the Bison, Nick Gazer posted this on social media yesterday, announcing that he is stepping away from North Dakota State football. The message on X that he posted reads as follows. I've been coaching college football for 20 plus years. I've made some amazing friends with players and coaches from Marietta College, Augustana College, Minnesota Duluth, and finally NDSU. My family has grown up being part of Bison Nation, and we will never forget Fargo. The culture of NDSU is what makes this place special, and I can't wait to watch a game from the sidelines. I'm going to miss the players and being in the locker room with the boys, having my kids grow up around some of the greatest people imaginable. These players have impacted me more than I could have ever impacted them. Then he finishes it off with, it's time for me and my family to explore a new opportunity, but we will never forget the people we have met along the way. Mike McFeely wrote an article up on inform.com that you can catch over there. And in there, he reports that sources tell him that Coach Gazer is going to take a job outside of coaching to spend more time with family. Congratulations. Do want to extend congratulations on a fantastic coaching career. If that's the case, if he's done with the game of football, there's nothing more important than spending time with your family. There is no doubt about that. And with all that being said, it appears for the upcoming season that there's going to be a big hole that the Bison coaching staff has to fill moving forward for the year. And for those of you that are not familiar with Coach Gazer, joined the team in 2010. He's the longest tenured assistant coach on the staff. You think about what he's done in the players that he's coached on that defensive line, primarily the defensive tackles. Think about the guys that have made a difference at that position and went on to move to the next level. Think about the guys most recently that the Bison have had. It's been really impressive. And it's not just what he's done with the defensive line and the defense for North Dakota State that's made an impact. He's had a huge hand in recruiting, being a helpful hand to pro scouts, special teams. He had a hand in that as well for a long time. You name it, he's done it for North Dakota State football. And you want to know why North Dakota State has been so dominant for over a decade now. Obviously, the players are a huge part of that. But you look at guys like Coach Gazer, who've been there since 2010, who have developed these guys, made really strong relationships, not just on the team, but in other parts of the game of football as well. You look at guys like Randy Hedberg, who just retired after last season. If it weren't for them, I'm not going to say that the course of NDSU football would look different, but it may. They're a big reason of why there's all these national titles here in Fargo. So congratulations once again to Coach Gazer. Best of luck moving forward in the next endeavor there. The sideline for North Dakota State football is going to look a lot different for this upcoming year under head coach Tim Polasek. There's no doubt about that. I was looking at this last night. As I mentioned, of course, Coach Hedberg, quarterbacks coach, retired after last year. Jake Landry, who was the offensive coordinator last season, is now over at Iowa State. So Dan Larson is now the offensive coordinator. Joe Bishoner will move up into that quarterbacks coaching position. You got, since Dan Larson is now the offensive coordinator, Dylan Chimera is moving over to the offensive line. He was brought in for the beginning of this year. Sam O'Jury's the running backs coach. It's going to look pretty different. It's going to be big shoes to fill for Coach Gazer, no doubt about that. I only had the opportunity to watch him work for 1 year and to see what he did and how he operated, and you can definitely tell there's a level of intensity there, but you could also see the respect from not just the players on the field, but really anybody that he was around. He always took time to speak with us while he was coaching and give us the lowdown on what was going on, and you can see his legacy develop throughout his time at NDSU with the guys that played at that position and have moved on. And he's leaving this group of defensive tackles, by the way, in a good spot going into next year. I strongly believe that the defensive line will not be an issue for North Dakota State this upcoming season. We'll preview the team's outlook as we get closer to the year. We're going to try to get him on the show here at some point, hopefully tomorrow. I'll shoot a message out and try to get him on and talk about what's next and reflect on the time here with NDSU. And if we're not able to do it this week, I'm sure Dom will shoot a message out as well. But again, best of luck in your next adventure, Coach Gazer. It was a lot of fun watching you work in my first year covering the team. We're going to miss you here in Fargo, no doubt about that, and being around NDSU football day in and day out, but go enjoy some time with your family, no doubt about that. Congratulations on everything that you've been able to do, and we'll see what Bison football can do from here. But that is the big news from yesterday from North Dakota State football. We'll touch on this more throughout the week and throughout the months to come leading up to the season as well. No doubt. All right, with that being said, we're across 9:30, so let's take a break here. When we come back, we're chatting some soccer, Gold Cup soccer, men's national team, women's national team, you name it. Drew Trafton's in to give us the lowdown. That's coming up next on Hot Mic.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
All right, it's a Wednesday morning, and that means Drew Trafton's back in studio with us.
Hey, Sam.
Thanks for coming in, man. I appreciate you taking time this morning.
Thanks for having me. Is this the longest you've gone on a show this week without saying the words house settlement?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I need a break from that for a little bit.
Yeah.
It
Sometimes
has been an all encompassing topic for the good portion of the week here.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice you just don't even realize it until you have that moment to take a breath on a story where you're like, I haven't not been talking about this for weeks or months, or and that can be like just getting that breath of fresh air is kind of nice.
It's a difficult topic too because it's something that you can get the grasp on, you can understand it. It's a lot of logistical things and very nuanced, but to regurgitate that information and explain it in a way that people would care, that's difficult.
And it's so nuanced.
Yes,
in
it
order
is.
to unpack it, and we don't know the full consequences of it. We don't know what it's going to, we know what it means now or how different schools are instituting it, but also it's like we have no idea what the ramifications or impacts of this are going to be. And of course, it's totally natural to be wondering, what those are.
Yep.
And for people to ask those questions of these schools, but they're like, who knows? They're trying to put their best foot forward, and it's interesting.
It is, and it's definitely not a thing that you can just give the Reader's Digest on. It's not going to take a 30-second explanation. It's something. There's so many pieces to it, but in the same breath as that, there's so many pieces to what happens in soccer that you know more than I do. So I want to go down that road here because I remember the last time I was in, you give us the breakdown on the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
I haven't showed the highlights from the quarterfinal game on Sunday, and I've been kicking myself, but obviously part of that is because of all the news with the house settlement. Break down that game for us on Sunday in the Gold Cup. We'll flash some of the highlights up here. For those that missed it, crazy game.
It was a crazy game. Yeah, and they were playing Costa Rica. It was a chippy game. It was, and that was probably, I would imagine, a tactic that Costa Rica wanted to deploy, given there's a talent disparity between the two teams. This is a young, unproven U.S. side, and so they, oftentimes you'll see that where they'll, push the physicality, see how the U.S. responds to it, if they can get under their skin, if they can throw them off their tactic and their game, and it wasn't, super successful. There was a breakdown early on, and that's how Costa got on the board first. Led to a penalty. And then the U.S. rebounded really nicely. And there was a solid, I'd say, 40-minute stretch of this match where the U.S. was really pushing the tempo. They were developing their play really well. The ball was moving really well. But what happened was they just didn't put Costa Rica away.
Yeah.
They weren't finishing.
Right.
And they weren't getting to that final, they were kind of playing with them. They're playing with their food a little bit.
Right.
And not to disparage Costa Rica's talent or play. They're good. But they let them stick around, and what ended up happening was Costa Rica drew even. They're a more experienced side. Less talented, sure, but they took advantage late in the match and they evened it up. And then, what happens is, you get sloppy in defense, and that's what happens. They have that one momentary lapse, and Costa Rica took advantage of it, and there's no extra time in the Gold Cup.
Right.
So you just go straight to penalties.
Okay, I like that. I'm a fan of that, by the way.
It builds a lot of drama. I hate, as a former player, hate penalty shootouts.
Really?
It's just like, it feels like, but it's strategic. There's it's a fair way to settle a match. But it's just, and it's great TV.
Right.
I mean, for anyone who hates soccer, like if you just want to tune in for the shootout, like you'll get your money's worth.
Yes.
Because they're fun to watch.
Yes.
And they're just extremely stressful. And that's where Freeze stepped up, the keeper, and he made 3 saves and a penalty shootout. And I mean, you're hoping going into a shootout that you're going to stop one.
Right.
Like, that's kind of what you're going for, and that your shooters will take care of business. But, there are nerves, and this is, to move on in a tournament. And so the U.S., I think my takeaway from that match was did they play well? In spurts, but they showed grit.
Yes.
And they fought through some, some of their lapses, and, they didn't have to pay the death penalty for that, which was really good. So they, I think this match should be a lot easier, the one tonight. If things go as planned, like they should be able to almost sleepwalk through this one. They shouldn't because Guatemala, they shocked Canada.
Yes.
And
that's a big deal, right? I have no idea. Okay.
It was probably the biggest upset in Gold Cup tournament memory.
Okay, I didn't know that.
In recent memory, because Canada's a pretty decent side. They're on the men's side, kind of right on. Like if things were to go chalk, right, for this tournament, it would have been Panama versus Mexico on one side, and U.S. Canada on the other.
That would have been fun.
And that's those are the top 4 ranked CONCACAF teams in FIFA.
Right.
But Panama was upset by Honduras, and that's who Mexico's playing, and that went to penalties as well. And then Canada, it was kind of the same situation as the U.S. had with Costa Rica, except that Guatemala's like the 106th ranked team in the world. So it's not like Canada should have taken care of that game, but it was the same thing. They're playing with their food, didn't put them away, and Guatemala made them pay. And Guatemala is a fun side to watch. They're entertaining. So, I don't, if I were a nonchalant or just casual observer of soccer, like you want to throw on a game tonight, that one's probably not the game to watch.
Yeah.
U.S. Guatemala, hopefully, and then it
right.
could be.
Hopefully it's not a close game. I get that.
Yeah, and this is probably setting up a Mexico-U.S. final.
And that's what you said was likely going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean it's not like there's no great observation there. It's like so many of these end up as Mexico-U.S. because they're unquestionably the two teams that should be at the top of a Gold Cup. And Mexico, I think, is right now considered probably the slight favorite heading into that match. They've played phenomenal defense throughout this tournament. I think they've given up 2 goals, conceded 2 goals, and they were kind of like sloppy, like not impressive, goals. So they're playing some sound soccer right now.
To go back on Guatemala again, the semifinals of the Gold Cup is tonight. USA will play Guatemala, and Mexico and Honduras, as you mentioned, will play in the other semifinal game. It's been 29 years since they made a semifinal, I think I saw.
Yeah.
Did they just got some studs, or is this just a Cinderella thing?
Yeah, it's kind of a Cinderella thing. So there are 26 players on a side for Gold Cup. And this has been one of those situations where they've actually, like a lot of these managers of these teams have bare trying to keep their guys from Europe off of the roster. They're like, don't worry about it. But that's more for like the sides that are already going to be in the World Cup. So like the U.S., Canada, Mexico, like they don't have to qualify because they're hosts for the World Cup. So you'd think that the Guatemalas, the Panamas, they'd be building up. 18 of the 26 players are playing the Guatemalan domestic league.
Okay.
So it's like, and that's not like considered to be a high
upper echelon of the sport.
Yeah, and I think they have 2 European players on their or playing in European leagues. So and in lower divisions at that. So it's not like this is an all-star side, but sometimes with these regional tournaments, like even in Europe, you'll see these magical runs where like I remember it was like 2004 something. Greece made it to the European Championship. It's like they have no business being in that game, but you'll just kind of catch fire, you'll meld well, and that's really important is that chemistry side of it.
So if we're looking at a game like this last weekend, 2-2 goes into penalties, then
anything could happen.
Then
yeah, and
anything could happen, but it wouldn't look good for the USA either if they win.
I think. I mean, you want to keep moving forward, and anything short of a final appearance is going to be seen as a massive disappointment for the United States, and it should be. It should be considered that. If you're a top, like they're ranked 16th in the world right now, but if you want to be a top 10 team, which I think they're very capable of. Just given the dearth of talent that they have, not necessarily on this roster, but just overall, like that is the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Like you win the Gold Cup,
right?
Or you're at least in the final. Because Mexico's right there too. Like they're certainly like their ceiling is probably top 10ish. So it's like you have to do that if you want to. Yeah.
Okay, so keep your eyes on that game, semifinal game, USA Guatemala, 6:00 start time for that. FS1 it should be a fun game. To wrap up the men's national team conversation before we go to break, more to talk about in the world of soccer with Drew, no doubt about that. World Cup coming up. From what you've seen, are we winning the World Cup, or is that way out of the picture?
Yeah, I don't think. You can always make a deep run though. Like that there's always a path forward, and if the chips fall the right way, you're in the right group. You can see something like that happening. Like in 2002, the U.S. was a bad handball away from potentially a semifinal against South Korea. And at that point, it's like, do they win that game and go to the final? So it's like there are ways forward for that to happen.
Okay.
But I don't think we have the quality built to say that could be realistic. I think a quarterfinal appearance would be really, like, that would be awesome. If we can get to the quarterfinals and then just see how it plays out.
Trivia question, because I honestly don't know the answer. Have we ever won that thing?
No, the men have never won a World Cup.
Obviously, the women's a different conversation.
They made it to a semifinal in like 1950, but that was before the tournament expanded.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're learning. We're learning today. All right. Well, that would be pretty cool if it happens soon. Again, that World Cup is next year. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the women's national team here for a second because they're playing tonight. We'll get the lowdown on that with Drew Trafton when we come back on this Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic. Couple of minutes left here with Drew Trafton on this Wednesday morning. Once again, Danny Lachenmayer joining us at the top of the hour, talking about his commitment to LSU. Some big news there. Going back to our conversation of what's happening in the world of soccer, of course, men's national team playing the semifinal game against Guatemala tonight. I didn't realize this until recently that the women's national team has been in action. They had a couple of friendlies against Ireland, and they're going to play a big one tonight against Canada. That's huge. Yeah. I know it's a friendly, but at any time USA and Canada playing anything, I'm going to have some attention on that.
Yeah, I think if you're going to actually watch a game tonight, it's this game
that's
that you
the
want to watch because the US and Canada they're developing a really good rivalry in terms of just the strength of the programs. And there are also some really interesting storylines here. So, like, the U.S. won the Olympics in 2024. And that was kind of a rebound for that program. They had to kind of, like, start building up from youth. Emma Hayes, their new manager, she's doing a great job with the program so far. Obviously, when you take that job, it's the job in women's soccer.
Right.
And so it's like your expectation is World Cup title or bust, which is kind of, it's a ton of pressure. But the Olympics is a big tournament for women's soccer.
Yes.
Not so for men's soccer. It's all amateurs. It's a different sort of thing. But women's soccer, like, it's an Olympic title means something. And the Canadian women won in 2020. But what's really interesting about, from the Canadian standpoint with this game is that program has had to kind of build back up from a massive scandal because in the 2024 Olympics, they were caught spying using drones to spy on their competition. And, this big investigation took place, and it was revealed that the Canadian men and women's programs had been doing that. And it led to the firing of the Canadian women's coach. And that's very much been a program on the rise. Like, they're ranked, I think, 8th in the world right now. And so that and the last two times the U.S. and Canada women have played, it's been draws that have gone to penalties because they've been in tournaments.
Okay.
And so we've had shootouts, in both of those games. So this they won't have a shootout tonight because it's just a friendly.
Right.
But this is the last game that we're going to see the U.S. women's national team play until I think October. And at that point, that will be for World Cup qualifying.
Okay.
And so this is a big opportunity to see a lot of the players you're going to see on the pitch tonight. You'll probably see a few more of the veteran players who haven't been playing against Ireland. So like the Rose Lavelle type player, she'll be out there probably for a little bit. But it's also a really good opportunity just to see some of the youth on this squad play and get a sense of who some of these names are going to be coming up. So probably not starter quality players that we'll see in the next World Cup, but maybe some really interesting players coming off the bench who could be a factor in another 4 years or 5 years. So you'll see some depth built there. And then, from the Canada standpoint, it's a lot of drama. This is only, I think their current head coach has only been with this team for like 6 months. And so she, this is like her second camp cycle with this group of players. And so they're very much trying to build on, the success that was there for Canada, but also like move on from this scandal and push ahead to World Cup qualifying and challenging the United States. Both coaches were like leading up to this friendly, extremely complimentary of the other side. Obviously when you're playing the United States, it's a massive opportunity,
right?
Because that is the measuring stick for women's soccer. So it's like if you get your opportunity, like you get to see what you're made out of. How do you stack up in the global conversation? Because after a awful World Cup, the U.S. women got knocked out in the group stage of the last World Cup on the women's side, which never happens. They had to build youth and they had to build back, and so the U.S. is now once again, because of the Olympic win, on top of the world standings.
Okay.
And Canada's not far behind it.
No.
I mean,
I'll be looking forward to watching this one. I'm going to keep my eyes on this and obviously keep my eyes on the men's team as well in the semifinal round
but
of
if
the
for
Gold
some
Cup.
reason that men's world or Gold Cup game is not competitive, which I'm hoping it won't be. That women's game might be the game to watch.
Well, they're going on at the same time too. So you're a big fan of American soccer. You got to make your decision or try to flip back and forth, which I guess you could do. This game's also at 6:00 on TNT. Eric's saying 2 TVs. Are you going to go with the dual setup today?
Yeah, I think we'll definitely be keeping an eye on both games. So it'll be kind of fun to and I'm hoping, and I have YouTube TV, so I can't actually
split screen that. Nice,
but I can carry it on my mobile. It's not to put an ad out there for YouTube TV, but I'm hoping that one of the games will be such a blowout that I can then focus on the other.
On one of them.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm hoping it's the men's game. Guatemala has been fun to watch, and it's a fun story, but. Our fellas need to step it in.
Want a competitive game. Yep. Or a competitive game that you want to watch, and that's most likely on the women's side. I always appreciate you coming in and educating me on what's going on.
No, I appreciate it. And
absolutely.
Love talking soccer. I know it's not the sport du jour for a lot of people,
but there's a big soccer community here.
Oh, totally.
It's huge.
Yep. Yeah, good support from the American Outlaws, the fan section.
Yep.
They've got a great chapter here, and a lot of. There is definitely a strong soccer community here as well.
Well, I appreciate you coming in. Enjoy your 4th with the family. I hope you have fun getting out. Sounds like you're going to the lake. Hope you have fun with that. We'll see you here next week.
Everybody keep your fingers.
Absolutely.
Fireworks safety.
Exactly, right? All too many cases of that. Every year I feel like that's the case. I'll watch my fingers. I would love to have all 10 of them by next week. Drew Trafton, appreciate it. Thanks for joining us here on this Wednesday morning. We'll step aside when we come back. Danny Lachenmayer joins us on the show. Big news, transfer from NDSU is heading off to LSU. He'll join us next on Hot Mic.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Back for hour number 2 on this Wednesday morning. Again, Danny Lachenmayer joining us in just a couple of moments here, but we do have some breaking news that just came to us during that last commercial break. Of course, earlier we told you about the news of defensive tackles coach, longtime assistant coach of North Dakota State football, Nick Gazer, announcing that he will leave the program after 15 seasons to explore new opportunities and spend some more time with family. The question is, who's going to fill the shoes of Coach Gazer when we finally found that out? Not finally, it actually was rather quick. NDSU, a familiar face, will take over that role to help out the defensive tackles. Cody Morgan is going to return back to North Dakota State. He spent 7 seasons at NDSU from 2016 to 2022 under head coaches Chris Kleiman and Matt Entz, and now he'll do the same under head coach Tim Polasek. So Cody Morgan is back and will help round out the coaching staff here for North Dakota State for this upcoming season. We're going to dive more into that in just a couple of minutes here on this Wednesday morning. So don't worry about that. But I do want to get to our next guest here this morning, who's got some awesome news that he also shared the other day. Excited to have him on, and of course we've been following along with the Bison baseball transfers over the last couple of weeks since the season ended for North Dakota State. And just seeing where these guys are going is unbelievable. It's awesome. And Danny Lachenmayer wraps up the list. He joins us on the show here this morning. Committed last Thursday out of the transfer portal to go to LSU. Danny, is that sunk in for you yet? That's amazing, man.
I appreciate you guys taking time out and letting me come on the show. But no, it was a whole whirlwind of the whole portal, and I still can't put it into words, and I probably won't be until I graduate.
I don't doubt that. Give us the breakdown of how this all happened. Your guys' season ends in Arkansas. Did you know at that point, okay, I can play at the upper echelon of college baseball, or what went into your decision to go into the transfer portal?
So I knew I had a good year. Obviously I didn't know that I was going to be able to get in contact with, not then, but now, the defending champs.
Yes, right.
So the biggest part of it was, like, what do I think is going to be better than NDSU? Especially with a really good season we just had and the good group of guys, which before anything, I had so much fun. It was such a good group of guys, and I thought it was going to kind of be like a Big 10, Big 12, somewhere in there. But then all of a sudden it was a jump into like ACC and SEC, and I was like, whoa, like what do we have here? Like, this is not what I was thinking. This is not what I was falling asleep thinking about. It was crazy, but grateful and appreciated towards all the coaches.
Well, you can't get much better than LSU if you're looking for a pretty solid next step. Again, for those of you that don't know, they just won the national championship, won the College World Series the other week. What's the timeline on this? Because obviously you go into the portal and these guys are at the College World Series. They're a little busy with that going on. When did they reach out to you, and was that surprising knowing that they had the biggest part of their season that was in the heart of it?
Definitely a little bit. So they reached out. I believe it was my first day. I was actually driving home from Fargo to the Twin Cities, where I'm from, and I was on my phone for about 10 hours that day.
Wow.
And yeah, so one of my mom came up and picked me up, and I had to stop driving because she just drove. So I was like, let me drive, and then all that. So I had to stop driving because I was like, I can't answer this many calls while I'm driving. I got to focus on the road.
Right.
But like, we were talking through with my family, and I was like, there's no way like LSU calls, because it like popped up in my head. I was like, it's always a chance, you never know. And then next thing you know, Jay Johnson calls me, and I was freaking out. I didn't know, just because I was an LSU fan when I was younger. So it was kind of like a whole like circle of like life kind of with me, and having that simple conversation with him, I was like, that is so cool. And I'm super grateful and with all that. And then went down to the visit. It was, I believe, early June, kind of right around that time. And I was lucky enough to watch them beat West Virginia to go to Omaha.
Wow. What a chain of events that all is. We've heard your teammates describe their experiences in the transfer portal. Again, 6 guys from Bison baseball going into the portal, all going to big time schools. You say you're on the phone for 10 hours on that first day. what's the conversations like? Are they trying to get to know everything about you, or what's that like?
So kind of right away they congratulate kind of on a good season, and then kind of get into things, which that was one of the key things I took away. What coaches are just talking about baseball, what coaches are trying to get to know you, like talk about your family, kind of the whole process with it. That's kind of when I knew that some schools maybe weren't me, just because it was like, okay, what are your thoughts on baseball? Like all this, and just jumping straight into the point instead of like, hey, how's it going? Like, get home safely, blah, blah, blah. Like kind of talk on a like more family perspective that actually get to know me. So you show me that you want me not just as a baseball player, but as a person.
Right. Exactly. Interesting. It's been so interesting to see the differences in the transfer portal for each different sport, and without a doubt, it's all a hectic time. I got to ask you about the decision to go to LSU. Did it help your decision that you played there this year? You pitched in that series. You know what it's like to throw off that mound. You know what that facility's like, and you know what that team can do. How much did that play an impact into your decision?
That I would say it definitely helped, just because I knew like what I was kind of walking into, so I don't come into the fall. It's a brand new field. Like I've pitched on that before. I've played 2 games on that before, so I have a couple footsteps into that stadium, but hopefully a lot more in incoming days.
Well, absolutely. Describe what it was like. You're wearing the green and gold uniform this last year, and you're playing against LSU. What was that like?
That was kind of a dream come true, just because just with the whole commitment to NDSU, and I was like, oh my God, we're playing LSU. Like I've been watching these guys since I was 7, 8 years old, and I'm like, this is like little me would love this right now. And it's just another whole like kind of, if you want to say, circle of life, and just kind of bringing back to my childhood.
Did you get the sense in this whole recruitment process out of the transfer portal that they remembered you from that series earlier in the year?
They did say that. That was kind of one of the things right away, that after I threw, they kind of put me on a whiteboard or a notebook and said, if this guy gets in the portal, let's jump on him.
Interesting. Well, again, it all worked out there, and it just wrapped up a fantastic year with North Dakota State. Now making your way over to LSU. You got a really interesting story. And for those that may not know your story, take us back to your days playing high school baseball in Minnesota at Egan High School. Did you even think, as you were wrapping up your time down there, that Division I baseball was a possibility?
No.
How come?
Plain and simple, no. Just so it's kind of started. A lot of guys their recruiting time is junior year, because that's when you can commit, or after your sophomore year. I'm not familiar, but so I had a good junior year, and then all of a sudden it was my senior year, and I'm still uncommitted. I'm like, oh my God, I have to do everything right to get this coach to contact me, that coach, and it was like kind of a big stress thing and mental game, and I didn't have as good as a year as I did my junior year, and it kind of took a toll. And then I was lucky enough and super grateful that Coach Oakes gave me the opportunity to come play some Division I baseball, and it's not just because it's a mid-major. I mean, you saw our schedule. We go down to Alabama, the DBU, the LSU. Like we're right in the mix, and we compete with everyone in the country.
So how did NDSU find you and no one else did? What was the story of how you ended up in Fargo?
So I did a little, what are they called? Like a little showcase.
Yeah. Yep.
And Coach Oakes was there, and when I was leaving, he texted me, and I was like, "This is it." Like I knew right away. I was like, "I'm gonna go to NDSU."
That's awesome. Obviously, it's worked out really well throughout your Bison career, and now moving forward with the rest of your college baseball career. Reflect back on your time here in Fargo. I'm curious. You come in this year. Did you have expectations that you were going to throw as much as you did, and how much has this process of being thrusted into big roles here, how much is that going to help you moving forward?
Definitely a lot. I mean, coming in, I didn't know what happened, or know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things that I'm like, I would say I'm proud of, is I reached out. Like I was super close, and still am close to Skylar Ranger, Cole Mail, like those senior guys, Alex Carnes, Leland Wilson, those guys. And I kind of shot my shot as like a freshman, say like, hey, can I come over to your house, apartment, whatever it was, and just kind of get to know them. So then I know later in the season that they're always going to have my back, and I can just go out there and just like take a deep breath and just be me kind of thing.
Right. As you go towards LSU here, did they talk about what your role's potentially going to be? Did they tell you, hey, we want you to make an impact right away, or is this an instance where you need to really earn your spot here on a great pitching staff?
So I mean, before anything, nothing's guaranteed. I know that I gotta like put day in and day out of work and more than I have ever have, and I'm honestly so excited to do that.
Yep.
And so it's kind of the thing. I'll either kind of stay at the closing spot.
Okay.
I for sure the biggest thing for the development piece with me, I need to learn a third pitch, and I want to change up, just because then kind of the ceiling is a weekend starter, but you can't really compete with two pitches in the SEC if you want to be a starter. So
right.
That third pitch is huge, and if that comes up quick, maybe a fourth.
Okay.
But just a day by day type of thing, and want to get it going as soon as I can.
You were a starter in high school, is that right?
Yep.
What was that transition going from starting in high school to going to a big time closer role at the mid major level? How big of an adjustment was that?
Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
Coming out of the pen was definitely something to get used to, just because, and throughout the whole week, and like as a starter, you pitch this day, and then the next day you do this. It's a set routine for that whole week until that next start. So it's super organized, and like bullpen, it's just like, oh, you good? All right, perfect, go in. Like it's just like snap of the finger, you're in the game, and you always got to be ready. Which that's the biggest thing. It makes you stay focused throughout the whole game, because you never know when you're going to get your next shot.
Wow, we heard Landon Koenig say very similar things about that, going from a starting role and having to figure out what life is like out of the bullpen. You mentioned it. You're excited for this next chapter coming up at the best team in college baseball, LSU. Now you know you're not going from Summit League competition. No knock to the Summit League or mid-major baseball, but you're going to the SEC. You're playing the best of the best almost every day. Are there nerves to that? What's your mindset going into year one?
Definitely nerves. I mean, it's a whole different. It's like high school football in Texas. It's like hockey in Minnesota. That's where you do it.
Yep.
And that's what the SEC is down south. Like there's 10,000s of fans that go to each game, no matter where it is in the SEC. And I mean, obviously a little nerves, like I said, but nerves are good. Why not be nervous for a big time opportunity? And I'm all up for it.
Absolutely. What was the reaction like from your family and your friends when you told them you're doing this?
So I actually told my mom. My mom was working on her deck, and I went out, and it's like, LSU just offered me. And then, like, she just started breaking down. She was like, what? And then just started breaking down. She was mid-call, and I was like, I'm sorry, I have to tell you this. She's on mute, but it was kind of a whole thing. I was numb after that last phone call, and I was numb. And then the whole thing with committing, they knew right away.
Yeah.
Like, even with me saying, like, I honestly don't know, which I didn't. And that's a good part about, like, having the family there to talk to them. And because, I mean, they're the people that know me best. So then they knew who I was going to choose, and they kind of just, like, a lot off my shoulders and knew that they were all in for it. And I know my mom has a Amazon delivery going with an LSU baseball. They're on already.
There
so
you go. Fantastic. That's awesome. Again, congratulations on this. A couple more before we let you go here this morning. To see the guys that entered into the transfer portal from this Bison baseball team, 6 in total, and to see where they went. I started this off by saying it's jaw-dropping to see this. Power 4 conferences, SEC, ACC, you name it. These guys are going there. What does that say about the talent that was on this roster this last season and what Bison baseball was able to do for you guys?
I would say one of the best to ever do it with NDSU. It was I mean, there's so much talent, and it maybe individual talent, but also as a group. We clicked right after kind of the start of the season, just because DBU was our first game, and they were ranked, I think, 20th in the nation, 19th.
Yep.
So it definitely took a toll on us, having a lot of losses kind of right away in the season. But I think that's like what created us closer. Because if we really wanted to do this thing, we could have had a super easy schedule, kind of play other mid-majors, but we chose the hard way, and that definitely paid off to end up in Fayetteville.
Absolutely. Fun season to follow along with Bison Baseball. We'll see what happens moving forward. I'm curious for you, one more before we let you go. What's your summer look like, and when do you head to Baton Rouge?
So as of right now, just kind of staying in the weight room and taking a break of kind of throwing just to give some no pushing or anything like that. But as of right now, I don't know when I'm going down to Rouge, but my plan is the next week or two, to kind of get my feet moving and get in the weight room and just get the lay of the land type of thing, just so I don't come in the fall kind of clueless or kind of scared, just because I want to go down there and feel as comfortable as I can before the fall ball starts.
Absolutely. Well, we wish you the best of luck, man. We're going to be following along with your career at the big level here with LSU. It's really cool to see what you're doing. Just keep up the good work, man.
Well, thank you very much.
Danny Lachenmayer joining us on this Wednesday morning. Enjoy your fourth. We'll keep tabs on you after you get down to Baton Rouge. What a transfer portal season for these guys from North Dakota State who've entered into the portal. He listed off they were good, not just individually, they were good as a team. And we wish the best of luck to Danny Lachenmayer, because what he did in his first season at NDSU was unbelievable. And to do it with only 2 pitches, as he mentioned, and learning a brand new rule, really impressive. So with Lachenmayer going to LSU, you got him there in the SEC. You got Landon Koenig in the SEC. He's at Ole Miss. He was on the show the other week talking about that decision. So you go from Mayport CG down to Oxford, Mississippi. Really impressive stuff there. Davis Hamilton as well at Minnesota. That's Big Ten. Logan Knight at Cincinnati. Good program there. Nolan Johnson, Summit League Pitcher of the Year, over to TCU. That's huge. Baseball in Texas. And then Jake Schaffner, of course, Summit League Defensive Player of the Year, absolute stud at the shortstop position, is over at North Carolina. This Bison baseball team was loaded last year. Big holes to fill for this upcoming season. Not a doubt about that. But really impressive to see this and what they're going to do. And I imagine all of those guys, all of those 6 guys are going to make impacts for their teams coming up next season and beyond. We'll keep tabs on them. Big thank you to Danny Lachenmayer for joining us this morning. All right, the breaking news is in. New defensive tackles coach is here for North Dakota State. We're going to break that down a little bit more when we come back on the other side of this break. Also, a reminder coming up at the bottom of the hour, Kobe Russell joining us as well. More Bison football talk. We'll talk about his decision to commit to NDSU. That's coming up at 10:30. A lot more to get to on this Wednesday morning. Hot Mike returns after this. Beautiful day on this Wednesday morning. Hump Day edition of Hot Mike continuing to roll on. Big thank you to Danny Lachenmayer for joining us on this Wednesday morning, as well as he gets ready to pack his bags and head to LSU, the defending national champions. That's where he'll continue his college baseball career after a successful season with North Dakota State. And of course, the breaking news this morning to pass along, longtime assistant coach Nick Gazer. He announced that he will be stepping away from North Dakota State football after a long career, 15 seasons, 10 national championships, helping out as the defensive tackles coach, co-defensive coordinator as well. So a lot of news there. And just a couple of minutes ago, as we started the second hour of the show, North Dakota State announcing that Cody Morgan will take over in that role. A familiar name for Bison fans, who was here just not too long ago. We're going to touch more on this here within the next half hour as well. We have Kobe Russell waiting in the wings to talk about his commitment to North Dakota State football. Big news here. Cody Morgan rejoining. And for those of you that don't know, he was at NDSU in the offensive quality control position in 2016, 2017. He was also the cornerbacks coach, punt return coach from 2018 to 2001, special teams coordinator and safeties coach in 2013. Spent time under head coach Chris Kleiman and Matt Entz, and will now come back to Fargo and spend some time under head coach Tim Polasek. I think that's a pretty solid get for a kind of a last-minute ad, if you will. Football season's right around the corner, and fill some big shoes that Nick Nazer will leave behind. Once again, we do want to extend a best of luck there. We'll touch on this a little bit more before we wrap up the rest of the show here. That being said, we're due for a break once again. We'll step aside. When we come back, Kobe Russell will join us to talk about his commitment to North Dakota State, what went into that decision, and football in Wisconsin. A lot to talk about with Kobe. That's coming up on the other side here on Hot Mic. Final half hour of the show coming your way on this Wednesday morning. Thanks for spending the start of your day with us here on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, also streaming on inform.com. Yesterday, we caught up with one of the members of the Bison football recruiting class for the class of 2026 in Q Barnslater out of Apple Valley, Minnesota. Want to continue while we have some time here in the beginning of July. I want to continue this stretch of catching up with recruits from that class of 2026. And I'm happy to welcome in our next guest here out of the state of Wisconsin, who announced his commitment to North Dakota State all the way back in May. Kobe Russell joining us on this Wednesday morning. Kobe, appreciate you taking time and hopping on with us today to talk about this. Long overdue for the conversation since your commitment. Congratulations, by the way. What has life been like since you made that decision to come to NDSU?
Yeah, it's definitely been good. Get to just focus on, what I'm coming in to do, playing football. Get to focus on that going into the senior season. So,
for Bison fans that may not know you and the type of player that you are, heavily recruited out of Wisconsin, widely regarded as one of the top prospects in the state as well. What made NDSU stand out amongst the other schools that were going after you?
Yeah, NDSU was, the first school to offer me. So they were there right from the start. And, that first offer was a really different feeling. I cried right after, and sitting down with Coach Polasek, as soon as he said the words, I was in shock, and then zoned out, completely forgot everything else that happened. So that was just a special moment to me, and it was first offer, so they were there from the start, and we're there the rest of the way.
Prior to Coach Polasek sending you an offer, what did you know about North Dakota State as a school, and what did you know about the football program?
Yeah, I only knew them from the football program, to be honest. But I knew about their baseball program a little bit because Peter Brookshaw, he went to the same high school as me, so I knew about their baseball program, and then obviously their football program is dominant, so I knew about them a little bit.
Yeah, there's been a solid pipeline from your neck of the woods, of course, out of Prescott High School in Wisconsin to NDSU. Describe that first visit to Fargo. What was that like?
Yeah, it was game day experience. So it was Missouri State, and I drove up with he's like big brother to me, but we're not blood related. His name's Chris. Drove up with him, and went and joined the game. Actually, no, before the game is when we talked with the coaches and stuff. And it was a game day, so I wasn't expecting a lot of people to be there, but it was a lot of recruits there. And we were sitting down, eating lunch, and then got pulled into the office, and that's when it happened. And then after that, just got to enjoy the whole experience. It was senior night, so they had like cool fireworks and stuff and explosions in the Fargo Dome. So and then we got to watch the game. It was a good game. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, it was a good senior night game for North Dakota State last season against Missouri State, who's now moved up to the FBS level, by the way. Once you made your decision and you told the coaching staff and Coach Polisek that, hey, I'm going to come to North Dakota State, what was that reaction like that you received?
Yeah, so they came to the school. I don't remember what day of the week, but Coach Johnson was there. We sat and talked for a while, and then Coach Olson and Coach Polisek came. And I kind of already knew it was going to happen, like myself, but my high school coaches were also in there, and we were all sitting down, and Polisek comes in with Coach Olson. He's like the closer in MLB, and he came in. It was a great conversation, and then he asked me, "You want to be a Bison?" I said, "I want to be a Bison," and the room went crazy. So it was amazing experience.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. We're going to show some of your clips, your highlights here from your time playing high school ball in Wisconsin. You play on both sides of the ball. So in those conversations you had with the coaching staff, what are you going to do when you get up to college? You're going to be offensive guy, defensive guy?
Yeah, I'm definitely defense, right from the start. And honestly, we'll probably be like that for a while. But, if I get an opportunity, some of the coaches told me I can get a pick six. There's a chance to come play, but obviously, I got to work on both sides of the ball still. Say I'm not playing both sides of the ball the first couple of years, and I have to work that, so when I get the opportunity, I can play.
How much would you love to be a two-way guy?
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That's something that only special, very special gifted people get to do. So that would be amazing.
Well, Travis Hunter kind of paved that path most recently. Obviously, Deion Sanders did as well, but you're starting to see more in there, and we'll see if you could be one of those guys. You come from, we touched on it, Prescott High School out of Wisconsin, and for those that aren't familiar with the Wisconsin football scene, what kind of competition are you going up against week in and week out during the football season?
Yeah, it's definitely good competition. I would say my school is one of the smaller schools. We're Division 4, and it goes all the way to Division 7. But Prescott plays in one of the better Division 4 conferences in football. My coach knows all like the stats on it, but I think it's like the last 12, 15 years we've had like 8 teams in the state championship game or something like that. And then we're one of the smaller schools, but, I think we can compete with the bigger schools also.
What's the outlook look like for this upcoming season? How are you guys going to do this year?
Yeah, we graduated a lot of seniors. So it's going to be, a lot of new guys touching the field. So, but there are a lot of them are seniors, but they still, new experience. But, I'm very confident in them. Just playing with them, even like practicing now and stuff, very confident. Can be a very exciting and, a really good season.
So you announced your commitment to come to NDSU in May. How much are you following along with what the Bison have been doing on the recruiting trail ever since you said you were going to come here? Have you been following along with this class?
Yeah, I definitely have. I've helped try to get some guys too.
Okay.
But yeah, this class, especially even some of the current players, like when you're on an official visit, the current players even said that our class has a really good chance to be very special, and especially the DB class that we have. DB class is I believe we can be one of the top classes in the entire country. And that's just based off of the kids that we got, and I know the type of kids we got because I know the type of kids that Coach Johnson wants to get too. So
absolutely. How's your recruiting skills? Are you a closer?
Nah, I wouldn't say I'm the closer. That's Polisek. But
no doubt.
Yeah.
A part of this class, so we're up to 15 guys here. It's going to quiet down for a little bit for the class of 2026. There's a good group of Wisconsin guys that are going to come in this class. How much does that bring a level of comfortability for you, knowing that when you get up here, and obviously there's a great group of Wisconsin kids already here as well, how much does that bring a level of comfortability for you?
Nah, yeah, for sure. And it's something I didn't even really think about, to be honest. But even like the guys currently there, there's a linebacker named Gavin Sell. I played him he was in the same conference as me, so we played against each other, basketball, football. And then the other guys like coming in my class, just being able to talk football being from Wisconsin, talk Wisconsin football. Obviously you didn't play those guys, but there's guys on the team that I actually played against. So, that's just, it makes it comfortable. It makes it, it's just cool to have that on the team.
When did the thought of playing Division I football, when did that come into your mind and realize, okay, this is a true possibility here?
Yeah, that clicked. Like, I think it was me watching my brother play I think football in general. He was playing, I think we started tackling in 3rd or 4th grade. Just seeing that, like, I just remember being a young kid, and that's clicked in my mind, watching it, college football on TV. And ever since, that's all I think about. I still think about it. I'm always going to think about it because I got goals beyond that. So, it's always in my head no matter what I'm doing. Like, it's always going to be in my head.
Was football, has that always been the number one sport for you, or was there opportunity to look at other avenues here?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been the number one sport, but I will say I definitely can hoop.
Okay.
Like, not any like high D1 or D1 schools, but like some schools around here have asked me to play, like the smaller Wisconsin colleges, but they also know that I'm playing football in college. But I definitely can hoop, and who knows, if I was a little taller, who knows what could happen there.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's how it goes. Well, we're happy to have you up here in Fargo. We're excited to watch you in the green and gold uniform coming up here in a couple of years. Before we let you go, what are the plans this summer as you get ready for the football season?
Yeah, we just working. Trying to get the team as close together and bonded as we can before we go to war with each other. So we just working. We in the weight room every day. Hanging out with each other during the day. We just trying to get the team bonded. That's my main focus as a leader of the team. And then I'm just excited for the season. I can't wait to play. I think it's gonna be special.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. We're looking forward to seeing what you can do this year and seeing what you can do when you come up to Fargo, man. Appreciate you for coming on this morning, and enjoy your holiday weekend.
Yes, sir. You too.
There he goes. Kobe Russell joining us on this Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mike. Announced his commitment to North Dakota State back in May. What a player. What a player he is. 3-star prospect out of Prescott, Wisconsin. One of the most highly sought-after prospects in the class of 2026 out of the state. North Dakota State always does so well in Wisconsin, and that continues for this class of 2026. He's 6'1", 185 pounds. He runs a 4.5 40, which is about 7 seconds faster than I can do it. I can tell you that much. So that's pretty impressive. This last year, he was an all-state honorable mention. He had 4 interceptions, 22 tackles, along with over 1,000 all-purpose yards. So, got a good athlete. Good athlete. You heard him say it, too. He would love to play both ways, and that's becoming a more common trend with that you'll notice. We heard that from Q Barnslater as well. Would love to do both. Would love to do anything that they can to make a difference on the team and on the field. And Q Barnslater said that yesterday, and now Kobe Russell saying that today. Again, this class of 2026 for North Dakota State, it's up to 15 guys, and with the amount of returning players on the roster, it's been reported, you can get all this information up on inform.com as well, that the Bison had a total of around 18 to 20 scholarships to work with for the entire class. So if we're at 15, potentially could add a couple more. We'll see what they decide to do. But already this class for 2026 has got some dudes for North Dakota State as well. It sounds like North Dakota, the Fighting Hawks, have been making some headway as well. They just got a guy out of Allen, Texas, the same high school as Kyler Murray, who announced his commitment for the class of 2026. Recruiting trail's been going well. It's been going well, it sounds like, for everybody up here in the Dakota schools. No doubt about that. That being said, we're due for another break here, a final break on this Wednesday morning. When we come back, we'll recap the big news from today, also revolving around North Dakota State football. We'll get into what to watch, and we'll get you out the door here today and let you enjoy this beautiful Wednesday up here in our region. Hot Mike returns after this. Couple of minutes left to go here on this Wednesday morning. Big thank you for starting your day with us here on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, also streaming on inform.com. Big thank you to our guests so far today, Drew Trafton joining us to talk about soccer. We'll get you ready for the Gold Cup games here in just a couple of minutes, so don't worry about that. We'll get into our what to watch here in just a second. Also, a big thank you to Danny Lachenmayer talking about his decision to transfer to the top team in college baseball, LSU, the Tigers. He'll take his pitching talents down to Baton Rouge, and it was a fun conversation with him. Also, a big thank you to Kobe Russell, one of the newest members of the class of 2026. He announced a couple of months ago, but haven't had the opportunity to talk to him until now. And really good to catch up with him and learn about the type of player he is and what he's excited about and what went into the decision to come to North Dakota State. Of course, we've mentioned it over the last hour here. Want to mention it again. The big news from today out of North Dakota State football that Cody Morgan, former NDSU assistant, will come back and take over the role as the defensive tackles coach after Nick Gazer announced last night on social media that he will be stepping away from the program. In the article that's up on inform.com, Mike McFeely reporting that sources are telling him that it sounds like he'll take an opportunity away from football and spend more time with family. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing more important than family, no doubt. And being a college football coach, especially in this day and age, it's difficult. Always on the recruiting trail, always focusing about what's coming up next. You spend a lot of time with these athletes, bettering them for their future. These families have to give up a lot in order for you to be successful in that career. And congratulations to Coach Gazer and what he's been able to do in his long career at North Dakota State. 15 seasons, 10 national championships. It's been really fun to watch him work. We wish him the best of luck in whatever the next opportunity may be. Of course, we would love to have him on the show here in the near future to reflect on his time here at NDSU. But, of course, the big – Eric's telling me 188 wins. That's not bad. Not bad at all. And like I said earlier in the show, if you want to – if you wonder where does this success that North Dakota State – has had over the last decade, where does that come from? Well, you point to guys like Goose here, or you point to guys like Randy Hedberg, who just retired after this last season. They're huge pieces in that, and they've been here for the long run. They know the Bison culture, and they've been able to implement that down. And it's been fun to see what Coach Gazer has done over the last couple of years. Fun for me to watch him work over the last season. But again, the corresponding breaking news with this is that the Bison worked quickly and got Cody Morgan coming back. And we told you before we had Kobe Russell on the show, Cody's no stranger to this Fargo area, was here for a couple of years, went off to Kent State, was the defensive coordinator in 2024. He was also the safeties coach there for a couple of years prior to that. So this Bison defensive line is in good hands. There's no doubt about that. While Cody was here back a couple of years ago, he was a big reason why 5 guys, I got them listed off here, Destin Talbert, Jaden Price, Marquise Bridges, Michael Tutsi, Josh Hayes, all had opportunities to make a run at the NFL level, and he played a part in that. It leads me to believe, since the announcement from Coach Gazer came out last night, that North Dakota State knew this was coming, and they had this already worked out, it's a good get. With that being said, we're almost out of the show here. I'm running out of time. Let's get into our what to watch here real quickly before we get out the door. Our What to Watch sponsored by Northwestern Mutual. Of course, you got the Twins and Marlins tonight, 5:40 first pitch on Twins TV. The good soccer games tonight. USA taking on Guatemala in the Gold Cup semifinals. 6 o'clock start time for that on FS1. Also at the same time on TNT, the women's national team, USA taking on Canada. We'll recap all three of those games coming up on the show tomorrow. We'll also talk about this news as well. Thanks for joining us. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it a little bit later on. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We'll see you back here for a fun Thursday morning edition of Hot Mike coming up tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.